So this one comes with a trigger warning. I am going to be talking about a child, but she deserves to be remembered for the rest of our lives. She was failed completely by everybody around her. I will be talking about baby Brianna. Her full name was Brianna Mariah Lopez. She was only 5 months old when this happened to her. Well, actually, this just happened throughout her little life, from when she was born, probably up until no facts up until she passed away. But so this happened in the year of 2002, July 19th. Her mom, her whole ass mom, her bitch ass mom, Stephanie Lopez, called 911 to report that her 5-month-old was not breathing, and her grandmother, her suegra, was also there when she called the cops. While she called the cops, she stated, supposedly, I don't know, probably not, but they reportedly said that her aunt, baby Brianna's dad, Andrew Walter, they were doing CPR while they were on the phone with 911. And when the ambulance arrived, that's when they took her to the hospital. But when they arrived at the hospital, baby Brianna just didn't make it. They announced her that she passed away as soon as she got to the hospital that morning. So this bitch, she told the nurses that her daughter fell around 3 in the morning and that's what happened. But the nurses immediately saw that that's not what had happened. They saw that she was covered from head to toe of bruises, bites, cuts. It was not a simple fall. Like, bitch, are you fucking dumb? And they examined her tiny little body and immediately got in touch with all types of law enforcement, the Child Protective Services, the police department. Everybody and their mama got involved, as they should have. So when they did the autopsy, I always knew about this case. I just didn't know how bad it was. I knew how bad it was, but I didn't think it was this bad because I never heard the case. I heard the case when it happened, and I remember them saying like that she basically was tortured, but of course the news didn't like go detail by detail. So when I heard this, like, it was so sad. So they examined her body. The autopsy showed that she had passed from a cranial cerebral injury. There was cuts and bruises from her head to her toe. A blunt force injury was discovered to have happened to her probably 3 days prior to her passing, which would have caused her permanent brain damage regardless. They found that she had bleeding membranes around all her brain, her optic nerves, which were a sign of her being violently shaken. She had damage to her private areas, and there was at least 15 bite marks on her body, all over her body. Besides the blunt force trauma that she had, that was about 3 days old, they also found two skull fractures, aside from the new one that showed to be of about 5 days old. They also found an older brain injury besides the new one that they found, the one that was about 3 days old. They found an untreated brain injury older than that. They also found bucket handle fractures, which is basically like a bone detached from another bone. They found these around her left and right thigh, and I think it was her left arm as well. And this was caused by them being violently forced, twisted, and yanked. 2 rib fractures that were several weeks old. And this bitch wanted to go to the hospital and say, oh, she fell from the bed. So, living in this trailer, right, there was like 8 people. But in baby Brianna's room, in her room, there was 5 people that slept there. It was the mom, the dad, a brother that was I think 18 months old, Stephanie, she had a twin brother named Steven, also stayed in the same room. All of them slept there. So when her useless mother got interrogated, she said that she only had like 3 beers prior to her falling asleep. She knocked out 12 hours, didn't know what happened. She woke up at around 9:45 in the morning, she said, found that her daughter was not breathing and full of bruises. And she said that she asked what happened, and that Andrew said that he was just tossing her up in the air and that maybe something happened to her then. So she did tell the cops that she had witnessed him doing this a few days prior to that incident, and that she told him to stop because she was scared that something was going to happen to her, right? Because she said that when he was throwing up the daughter, that she was hitting her head in the ceiling. So she also said that none of the bruises were present when she fell asleep, and that the bite marks were from her little brother, the 18-month-old. After that, they were also interviewing her bitch-ass dad, Andrew, and he said that him and Steven, after work, got some beers, and they went into their fucking small-ass room and they started drinking there. So there was 2 other people that were in that room, but they said that they didn't see anything out of the ordinary. One of them did say that he saw the dad, Andrew, like he saw him throwing the baby up in the air, but nothing unusual happening there, of course. So they didn't report that. And so whatever, right? Him and Steven, they go buy some beers after work. They go into their bedroom. They start drinking with Stephanie. And Andrew said that he fell asleep around midnight. And he woke up at 3 in the morning, checked on Brianna. She was fine, she was breathing. Woke up again, changed her diaper, covered her, and he fell asleep again. He woke up another time, the last time, the 3rd time, and it was closer to 10 in the morning, and she was no longer breathing. So he told detectives that she had fallen from the bed and that the bite marks were from the 18-month-old brother. Yeah, the same bullshit that they came up with before calling the cops, probably. But then after a while, he did finally admit that the bite marks came from him and that he did throw her up in the air, making her head hit the ceiling multiple times prior to that. And he also said that Steven was doing the same thing. After this, the cops finally told him, because they hadn't told him yet that she was already pronounced deceased at the hospital. So at this point, the detectives told him, Andrew, that she had already been pronounced deceased, and they started interrogating him even more. So he said that he did mean to bite her, but he didn't mean to kill her. And he said that he would just do some of these things to piss off Stephanie. And he finally admitted to what really happened after this. He admitted that him and his brother-in-law were playing rough with Brianna, tossing her around and letting her hit her little head and letting her fall on the floor. So they started tossing her around like a football. And he even told the detectives, like when they showed him pictures of her, he was able to tell them which bruises were from the ceiling and which bruises were from the fucking floor. And they did ask him also, like, what he would do when she was crying and to comfort her, and he said that he would just throw her again, that he would just toss her again. So he told detectives that Stephanie used to get mad at Brianna and pinch her ears and throw her across. Like, if the bouncer was a couple of feet away from her, she would just like toss her. When detectives asked him about the private area damage, he got pissed and he went off on them, but eventually he did admit to have caused the damage himself. Steven was also interrogated, and he said two other people joined them that night to drink, but yeah, those were the guys that they didn't know anything. Like, they said that, they just saw nothing out of the ordinary, so they were not helpful at all. Like, they were not witnesses, or I don't know, they were not really, I didn't see a lot of them, just that they said they didn't see anything out of the ordinary. But then they also asked him, like, about the damages to her private areas, and he said that he didn't remember. No, at the beginning he said that it wasn't him. He said, no, I wouldn't do that. But then he said, like, throughout the interrogation, he said that he didn't remember if he did or he didn't. But then, like, later on, he did confess that he didn't remember starting the acts of this, but he did remember stopping because he realized that what he was doing was wrong. So I remember this story so much because it was just so ugly. Like, I can never forget about that. Honestly, never. So the grandma and her grandpa, I don't know, I guess the partner, grandpa, they were eventually charged. They charged them with not reporting the abuse or neglect, and they were convicted and given 5 months sentence of slap on the hands. And her uncle Steven, he did finally admit to the jury what he did to her, um, as in essaying her and throwing her around like a ball. He got sentenced to 57 years and is now inmate 5927. The excuse of her father was sentenced to 63 years in prison and is now inmate 559926. But he will be eligible for parole after 2025, so I have to look into that if he was granted parole, because I don't know. And I would keep calling this bitch a bitch, but I think a bitch takes care of her puppies better than this whole bag did. But Stephanie was sentenced to 27 years in prison. Another slap in the hand. But after serving not even half, or what was it, 13 years or something like that, she served, yeah, half of that. And she was eligible for parole in 2021 for good behavior, and was in probation for 2 years after that. And she was set free here in Texas. But the bitch is not free. No, I don't think she's at peace, and I don't think she will ever be at peace. The wicked never have peace. But I will forever remember her. Baby Brianna, I think that we forever have to forever say her name, because fuck her mom and her dad.